All right, everybody, welcome back. Good afternoon. We've got some more Seattle Seahawks outgoing free agents to take a look at today. And this is going to be our last big impact player, although I don't know if you would really call this guy a big impact player at this point, but he's the last guy of really big significance that people are going to know about and is really going to be coveted this offseason. It's Boye Mafe. And at this point, I don't think Seahawks fans think that much of Mafe. I don't think most NFL fans think much of Mafe, but he's going to get more money than you would think. And he might get a lot more money than you might think because of the circumstance. He did play a decent amount for the number one defense in football, and he just won a Super Bowl. That is a formula to get more money than you might have expected. So be ready for Boye Mafe to crack open a few piggy banks here. So let's take a look and try to judge how much. All right, everybody, before we go any further into this video, I want to take a minute to tell you guys about the Sleeper app and some new functionality they've recently rolled out, Team Picks. With Team Picks, you can pick winners in all kinds of sporting events. Right now, we have NBA basketball, college basketball, NHL hockey is going on, baseball's going to start in a little more than a month, and of course, you have futures in the NFL, even though the games in the NFL are over. Right now, if you look to my left here, you can actually see you can bet on next year's Super Bowl winner. They've got the Seahawks leading the way in those odds, by the way, at 12%. How does that make you feel as a Seahawks fan? But you can bet on MVP, you can bet on draft picks, you can bet on player destinations, all kinds of fun stuff, even though the season is over. So that is Team Picks over on Sleeper. A lot of fun stuff you can do. All right, so Boye Mafe, edge rusher. Edge rushers get paid in this league more than almost anybody except for quarterbacks and maybe wide receivers, but edge rushers get paid, and he is entering his prime, and he has had good years in the past. Put it all together, and Spotrac, I think, is kind of barking up the right tree here. They have 3 years, $36.7 million. That's 12.2 million per year. If anything, I think you could make a pretty good argument that's a little bit low. I think he's actually probably gonna get a little bit more than that, and let's try to process why I think that is the case. So first of all, okay, Boye Mafe coming off a very forgettable season. It was supposed to be a breakout year because it was a contract year. He had 2 sacks. He had 17 PFR pressures. He had 31 tackles, which is a career low. His his approximate value was 3, which is just barely higher than it was when he was a rookie. And he played in every game too. So when you take a look at that, you're going to be like, oh, this guy's not worth much. But teams are not going to just look at that. They're going to look at 2023 when he had 9 sacks, looked like a breakout player in this league. They're going to look at 2024, 6 sacks, and he played that whole season with a bad leg. They're going to look at a player that looked like he was headed towards something relatively special and then hit a speed bump in 2025. And there are a lot of reasons why that could have been. Teams are going to find ways to excuse it. They're going to find ways to say, that's not who he is. He's better than these numbers indicate. That's what these teams are going to do. So I'm going to say it right now. I think that Boye Mafe is going to be looked at in a much more favorable light. They're going to look at a guy who had 20 sacks in the first 4 years of his career, and they're going to look at that instead of a guy who had 2 sacks last year. Pro Football Focus, by the way, did like him relatively. They gave him a decent grade this last year, 69.2. And he did do a couple good things in the Super Bowl, too. That was his best playoff game of the year. So there are some things going on here that are going to boost his value beyond maybe where it should be. But at the same time, the value is the value, right? If you can get the big contract, then you deserve the big contract. You are worth what the market says you're worth. Now, you go to the edge rusher list, sort by average annual value. Obviously, we're going past a lot of the top names here. But pretty quickly, let's stop at a guy like Greg Rousseau. Or Rousseau. I'm sorry. 4 years, 80 million for Greg Rousseau. Okay, that's actually easier than I thought it would be. Greg Rousseau. Thank you, Pro Football Reference, for listing out pronunciations. Now, look, Rousseau, better player than Mafe, for sure. Former first-round pick. He was in the league. He's been in the league for several years now. You can see he's had 8 sack seasons twice. He's had 5 sack seasons, 4 sack seasons. He's a good player against the run. Pro Football Focus generally loves him. The final year before he got paid, he was an 83.1 on their grading scale. So yes, this is a better player than Boye Mafe. Sure. But is he radically better than Boye Mafe? I don't know if that's the case. I don't see any 10 sack seasons here. I don't see somebody that is so much obviously over the top better than Boye Mafe to where we just have to reward him with a ridiculous amount of more money, especially because of inflation. So, yeah, we're not there yet, but we're probably closer than you thought, right? And you go a few slots past Russo, you get to Dio Odangbo, excuse me, from the Bears, former second round pick of the Colts, just like Mafe was a second round pick. Um, he was with the Colts for 4 years. That final year was the first year he was like a full-time starter, 3 sacks, but the year before that, 8 sacks. So if you are comparing him to Boye Mafe, this should sound very familiar. 4 years on the rookie deal in Indy, and he had 16 and a half sacks. That final year before signing the new contract, he had 3 sacks. This is very Boye Mafe-like. And guess what he ended up getting? He ended up getting 3 years, 48 million, 16 million per year. And Pro Football Focus wasn't crazy high on him. They thought he was a decent player. They weren't all over him though. So, uh-oh, right? Like we're already kind of in range here. 3 years, 16 million per year. We're already kind of there. Now, maybe that's just a bad contract. Maybe that's just like an outlier. So let's keep going. You got Jonathan Cooper here. He re-upped with the Broncos a couple years ago, right? And this is another guy this is a 7th round pick. Okay, so not even like any real pedigree here. I think he got extended midway through 2024. His breakout year in 2023 was 8.5 sacks. Before then, he wasn't all that much, and he was kind of breaking out in 2024. So, okay, maybe there's a little bit more forward motion compared to Mafe, but this is not anything ridiculously over the top either. He got extended to a sizable contract after a season, after a rookie deal where he had a little more than 20 sacks, and Mafe's got 20 sacks on his 4-year rookie deal. And what did he get? 15 million per year. Now, Pro Football Focus, they'll tell you that he was just an okay player in 2025 and go back to 2024. I mean, they liked him a little bit more, but same range as Mafe, right? And this guy gets 15 million a year. And Jonathan Cooper had not just won a Super Bowl when he got that money. And if anything, he should have been giving the Broncos a break because they extended him early before he hit the market. What about Carl Granderson with the Saints? 3 years ago, got extended 4 years, 52 million. 4 years, 52 million, 13 million per year, 3 years ago for Carl Granderson. And what are we talking about with Carl Granderson here? Rookie deal, he had what, 5.5, 5, so 13 and 14 and a half sacks. Was not at any point during that 4-year span a full-time starter. Started 7 games combined across 4 seasons in the NFL. Just kind of a guy who's out there doing his job. Nothing over the top here, nothing crazy. Pro Football Focus liked him a lot, but remember, he was not even playing that many snaps. He was mostly getting to focus on coming off the bench at this point. This is 2022. So he gets paid 13 million per year. I don't see how Mafe gets paid less. And then how about Alex Wright? This is last offseason. He got 3 years, 33 million. So Alex Wright, first 3 years of his career, 6 total sacks. 2024, he barely played. He played 4 games, had 1 sack, and they still gave him 11 million per year. PFF, they didn't think much of him. You go back to 2023, which was the year he actually had 5 sacks. They still didn't like him very much at all. They thought he was actually bad. And he still got the 11 million. So you don't have to do much to get paid a good amount of money in the NFL as an edge rusher. So when I look at this, I don't see Boye Mafe getting 12.2. I see him getting like 15. That's just the way things work right now. Now, am I giving Boye Mafe 15 million per year? Am I giving him 3 years, 45 million? No. I don't think so. I think I can do better. And I say this as a guy who loved Boye Mafe when we drafted him. He just hasn't quite been the guy that I was hoping. Good player though. Gonna have value. I think he can get that 3 years, 45 million from somebody. Team like New England or Kansas City, I could see it. So I think that's where it's gonna be. I think for me to bring back Boye Mafe, it would have to be like half that. I just feel like I can do better on the outside. I feel like I can do better looking for players on the outside. I don't think he's as bad as his numbers indicate he is. He would be from 2025, but I'm trying to be a little bit more ambitious here while I have the opportunity to be a little bit more ambitious. So yeah, Boye Mafe, I'm gonna say 3 years, 45 million from somebody, and I'm not going anywhere near that. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. That's how I see Boye Mafe right now. Good player, but I I just don't feel like giving that guy 15 million a year. I'd rather shop around in free agency where there are some appealing edge rusher options to attempt to replace his production, which just wasn't enough in a contract year. What's he going to do when he's not playing for a contract? Who knows? All right, so that's going to kind of wrap it up for the big contracts to consider for outgoing Seahawks free agents. We do have other players, which we'll be covering mostly tomorrow, but for the most part, the big decisions are out of the way. So at this point, once you get past that, and then you take care of your house cleaning behind these guys, you're ready to just go spend in free agency. So let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Everybody have a good rest of your day.